tenor that could just stay in those high registers
Right.
beautifully. And so he almost was singing with Bogart.
Oh, look at that. Who hired the Williams brothers to perform in a nightclub that was, at that time, the world's highest paid? Was it Dinah Shore, Benny Goodman, Kay Thompson, or the Andrews Sisters? I think we already spoke about this earlier.
Yeah, and I didn't say Kay Francis. It was Kay Thompson.
Yes.
And he also, speaking of nightclubs, in 1966, he opened the brand new Caesar's Palace in Las Vegas.
Really?
That's how big he was.
Huh.
Now, it could be that Frank and Dean and Sammy were under contract.
I'm sure they were.
To the Sands, and they couldn't get them. But as the other guys, he was right on top of the list.
Well, look at that. Now, when did Andy Williams make his solo career? Singing solo. Was it 1950, 53, 52, or 54?
Well, that's... he actually was in New York singing as early as 51, 52. So I'm going to say 52, even though his first hit record, and he was lucky, he came right out of the box, was in 56 with Canadian Sunset. So I don't know that answer.
53.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
That's a good one, though.
Yeah, that's an excellent one.
What year did Andy perform the Oscar-winning song Moon River? Do you know that year? You want me to give you the years?
No, I think I know that one. The movie came out, and when I do the show, because it's early in his career, relatively early, I kind of hold the song because I want to close with the song.
Is that the song you close with?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
that's a wonderful tribute then, because that's his...
It became his production company's name. It became the name of his theater in Branson. And it was the song that was never released as a single record. Written, of course, by Henry Mancini and Johnny Mercer. Johnny Mercer, being from the South, brought all those allegories and allusions to Huckleberry Friends. It's so subjective, the song. Everybody has a different interpretation of what it really means to them. This is why I think it's such a wonderful song.
What does it mean to you?
To me, when I sing it, I think about following a new path, changing, not only beginning, as I think most people look at it, as a couple of young people starting out, but I think it also shows that you can, with your Huckleberry Friends, cross that Moon River and go and do and change whenever you have to change in your life, and accept the change. Don't be afraid of it. Go to it and cut a new path for yourself. And that's what it means to me, because I've done that.
And you've done it. And that's a wonderful analogy. It really is. Because I think in this day and age, how can I put this? I think just in this day and age, a lot of people are very, very afraid to move on. I think because of the economy and how the world is situated, and how we had our huge issues, 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, and we kind of went through a new verge depression. A lot of people are afraid to think out of the box.
Absolutely.
And I think you have to.
I do.
I just spoke with a young lady about this, and she just really opened my eyes, and she said, you really cannot be afraid. You can't be afraid. You have to forge forward and do it.
Yes, you do.
Because it's only negative energy that's keeping you back. Because negative energy will absolutely, because your brain, I read, 3/4 of your brain is more likely to say no than yes.
Yes.
Have you ever read that? I've read the research on that.
I have seen that. I have, and it helps me to have a beautiful beach to walk on. I'm very lucky. We have a federal beach where I live that is controlled by the federal government because it's part of the Cape Canaveral complex, and there's rarely anybody on it. I went out this morning after we got heavy rains over the last day and a half, and there were literally 4 people I encountered in about a 3-mile walk, and that helps my head too.
Yes.
Having that to clear myself out. Your question, of course, was Breakfast at Tiffany's.
Was Moon River.
It was Moon River for Breakfast at Tiffany's, written for Audrey Hepburn's voice, and she did sing it in the movie. And they were going to dub her voice, and she said, if you dub my voice, I will walk away from this movie.
Yeah. And that was in 1962.
Didn't. Yes, it was. Yeah. And the beginning of his television career, his series with NBC.
Did he have a TV show? He did, right?
9 years.
9 years, wow.
To me, that's the focus. That's really the focal point of his life in terms of his hugest success. He began, from 1962, he also, with the new series, signed the biggest recording contract at that time in history of pop music with Columbia Records. He would become the largest selling album seller in easy listening music, that category, which really no longer exists, but existed for a long time, in history. Andy Williams was cranking album after album after album after album after album and getting new pop songs to sing. Some of his biggest pop hits were from 62 to 67, 68. Can't Get Used to Losing You, Music to Watch Girls By, Almost There. And then with the beginning of Moon River, he developed through the Oscars and through who he was. Everybody wanted him to sing their song, and they wouldn't be attached to the movie, but they would become in your mind attached to the movie. One of my best favorite melody is Henry Mancini's Days of Wine and Roses. I think it's the most beautiful melody he wrote. That's not in the movie.
Right.
It's not attached to it. You don't hear Andy sing it. But when you think of Days of Wine and Roses, the movie, which you may never have seen with Jack Lemmon and Lee Remick,
yes.
I recommend
Fabulous movie.
But it's serious and hard. It's about alcoholism.
Yeah.
It's deathly serious. How do you write a love song for that? Johnny Mercer, in his brilliance, goes back in their relationship to the beginning when he saw in her the beauty and the innocence and the love. And he uses that recollection and puts it in the wind. So the wind comes by, and there it is. It opens up to you. And it speaks to me because that's kind of how we are in our life. And when I get to sing that incredible song. So Andy was doing that, worked it all the way through the years of Love Story and the theme from The Godfather. The Love Story is, to me, truly amazing. It's 1970.
Yes.
We all know about the movie and how that came to be, and the book, which was a treatment of the screenplay before the motion picture came out. But the world in 1970 was if we thought 1968 was a terrible
Ali
year.
McGraw and Ryan O'Neal.
Yes, of course, and Ray Milland without his toupee playing his father. We had riots at Kent State in May of 1970 where 4 students were shot dead. We had 3,000 National Guard troops on my campus at Ohio State and Columbus with 800 highway patrolmen. There were over 200 plus campuses at one point during that riot era, 70, that were closed because of rioting. We were experimenting with things that we probably shouldn't, pharmaceutically.
Well, everybody did.
But we were doing it purposefully. Tune in, turn on, drop out. We had 500,000 troops in Vietnam. It's chaos. And out of that comes this movie that's just this simple tearjerker love story. Mm-hmm. And the song that's written to accompany it is this big, old-fashioned, corny, if you say, song that everybody liked. It was the number 4 record of the
many
year
years.
In 1970 for easy listening, and it was one of the top 15 songs of all genres for that year, up against rock and roll and all that stuff. Here I am, I'm watching the riots during the daytime at Ohio State, yet I could go back to my room at night and listen to, some of you will know this, Jethro Tull and Procol Harum and Cat Stevens, and maybe in my car I'm hearing the theme from Love Story and liking it, and it means something to me. Coming back to Andy Williams has a meaning to me because he could pull us back from being out there and make us feel safe and good and
But
purposeful.
that's a wonderful thing. It is a wonderful thing.
He was a magician at that.
I think everybody has to have their whatever brings them feeling good and say, we all know that music enhances and changes your mood. It picks you up when you're sad, or if you feel like being melancholic,
Yes.
If you feel like, what is the word? It's escaping me. Melancholic.
Full of melancholy.
Yeah.
Or,
the word just went right out of my head. But the music.
Melancholic is someone who's addicted to melons, I think. I've been a melancholic most of my life.
But it's true. Music just enhances our life, and it does change your whole facade. If you're sad, if you're happy, whatever it may be. And for you, it was Andy Williams. That's who did it for you.
Yes, and I think many others. I talk about that.
Who else? Do you cover anybody else?
Oh, yeah. A lot of people are meaningful to me musically. I sang big bands, so obviously
You can do big band singing.
I do all of those acts. I was a big fan of Sammy Davis in his life. I love his music.
Yes.
I do Dean, of course, and I do Frank. Everybody has to. You mentioned Tony Bennett earlier. I love to sing his songs. I do a whole show of his, and then I do the things that are maybe more typical of the audience, of what they're seeing regularly here. I sing Neil Diamond because everybody likes Neil, but I also sing Glenn Campbell because I
Good old Glenn
respect
Campbell.
what he's going through now, and I do it as much as a tribute to what his life became, and the great upbeat, good times, sunshine hour, Glenn Campbell high. He had a really good tenor that people don't quite remember him for. He had an excellent voice, and the songwriting of Jimmy Webb, which was fantastic. I love that era. I do tributes to the music of the 50s, of the 60s, the British Rogue music of the middle 60s. But I don't go much further because that's the demographic that I'm trying to reach out to. There's really no point. And frankly, as a pop music consumer, I kind of stopped about 25 years ago myself. I wouldn't know one Snoop from a dog. So I'm pretty lost in that world.
Okay, here's a fun one.
Yeah.
Which of the following is true about Andy Williams' hobbies? He collected many modern art pictures. He was a golfer and an ice skater. Both A and B, or he loved to spend vacations in Aspen, Colorado.
Oh my gosh! Well, he liked all that. He was everything. I don't know about the ice skating, but I do know he collected art.
Now it was both A and B. He was a golfer and an ice skater,
and he had his own golf tournament.
Yeah, and he collected modern art.
Celebrities for a number of years were attached to golf tournaments, major golf tournaments on the PGA
today
Tour.
Too, I mean,
the Bob Hope Classic, the Crosby, the Danny Kaye, Gleason had one in Florida, and his down in San Diego. And the Andy Williams was for years and years a major golf tournament. I think Chrysler sponsored it.
And of course, you know when he died.
Yes, I do. And he, it was cancer, and to his credit, he kept performing maybe a year before he died. He pretty much stopped, but the touring, the years he did at Branson, going to Branson was a major event. It $12 million of his own dollars to do it.
Wow.
But other folks had done it, and he was just tired of the road. And so many of them got to Branson, and they went, this is great. They come to us. I don't have to leave. He lived near a golf course. His neighbors were Dina Martin and her husband, who I've had a chance to work with and hear stories about Andy and his widow. And he was very content. He looked for that sort of contentment for the last 20 years of his life. And I think Sinatra did in some ways. He was with Barbara down in Palm Desert for most of those years, just kind of living a gentrified life and getting out of the mainstream.
But it seems like Andy's really he's who motivated you, and he's really the true, you want to base, I think you kind of want to not base your life after his life, but you're respectful of what he's done.
Yes, and I wouldn't, it's probably too late to change, but I wouldn't have minded emulating aspects of his life that I think were good. He was Kennedy's close friend. The night Bobby was shot, he and Claudine were in a hotel, not the Ambassador, but another hotel in L.A., watching on TV, and they were waiting for a hand signal from Bobby. And when they saw the hand signal, that would mean you can put your coat on and take off, because we're all going to meet at the Factory disco and party down for my victory in L.A.
Right.
He and Ethel, Claudine and Andy. He goes behind, and he's shot. They rush to the hospital. At the hospital, this story amazes me, the personalities of it. Of course, his shirt is all bloody. We need a shirt for Bobby. John Glenn, who was an idol of mine, I had a chance to interview him several times in Ohio. He gives him a spare shirt that he has. We don't have a tie for Bobby. Andy takes off his tie, puts it on him, and he's buried in that tie. When he died, Ethel said, "Will you please come to St. Patrick's for the funeral and sing his favorite hymn?" And on national TV,